Okay, let's talk about what makes a team truly great. Not just good, but one of those high-performing teams that seems to have some kind of magic formula. We're going to break down that alchemy, the invisible architecture that separates a team that just clicks from one that's, well, a total train wreck. And you've been on both, right? We all have. So let's figure out what makes that magic happen.
Yeah, we've all been there. You remember that one group project where everything just flowed, ideas were bouncing around, and it was actually fun? And then you remember the other kind, total mess. Understanding this difference, it's not just some academic exercise. This is a fundamental skill for your entire career, something that's going to define your success from day one.
Now here's a paradox that trips up so many people, even experienced leaders. You'd think, logically, that if you just assemble a team of all-stars, the smartest, most skilled people in the room, you'd guarantee success. But that's not how it works at all. History is just littered with the wreckage of so-called super teams that failed spectacularly. So if it's not about just raw talent, what is it?
To figure that out, we first have to learn how to diagnose a team's health. Think of it like a doctor. We're going to start by looking at the basic, visible signs, the symptoms that tell you if a team is actually thriving or if it's just barely surviving.
Okay, first up, it all starts with something called shared norms. Think of these as the team's invisible operating system. They're the unwritten rules that guide absolutely everything. And I'm not just talking about showing up on time. I mean the deep stuff, like how do we give feedback? Can you challenge your boss's idea in a meeting without getting shot down? When everyone is working from the same playbook, you have a rock-solid foundation.
And when you have that foundation of shared norms, it leads directly to this, cohesiveness. Now, this isn't just about everyone liking each other and being friends. It's that powerful, almost electric feeling that you are part of a single, united unit, all pulling in the same direction. It is the absolute glue that transforms a collection of individuals into a real team.
But on the flip side, without that glue, you get this classic, frustrating problem, social loafing. You know the type, right? The person who kind of coasts, assuming everyone else will pick up the slack. But here's the key insight. Social loafing usually isn't the root problem. It's a symptom of something deeper, like a total breakdown in cohesiveness and mutual accountability.
And this just illustrates the difference perfectly. On one side, you've got the Toronto Raptors winning an NBA championship. That wasn't just raw talent, it was this incredible cohesiveness, these strong norms, and everyone holding each other accountable. And on the other side, that nightmare group project, where no one knows the rules, there's zero unity, and social loafing runs wild. The contrast couldn't be more clear.
All right, so now we know how to spot the symptoms. Let's move from diagnosis to strategy. We're going to look at two really powerful frameworks that the pros use to intentionally build elite teams. These are kind of like the secret playbooks for engineering success.
First up, we have Tuckman's model, and what it shows is that pretty much every team goes through this predictable journey. It starts with forming. Everyone's polite, a little uncertain. Then comes the most critical stage, storming. This is where conflict happens. It's messy, people push boundaries, and honestly, it's where most teams get stuck and completely fall apart. But if you can get through it, you hit norming, and then, finally, performing. That's where the real magic happens.
And our second playbook is Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions, which works like a pyramid. What's so important to understand here is that you have to build from the bottom up. You can't fix a problem at the top, like people not caring about results, if you haven't secured the layers below it. And what's at the very, very bottom? The absolute foundation of everything? An absence of trust. If people don't trust each other, nothing else is even possible.
This idea of trust brings us to what might be the single most important concept in all of modern teamwork: psychological safety. This is that shared belief, that feeling in your gut, that you can take risks on this team. It means you can ask a dumb question, you can admit you made a mistake, or you can challenge a popular idea, all without the fear of being embarrassed or punished.
And look, this isn't just some feel-good theory. Google spent years and millions of dollars on a massive study called Project Aristotle, trying to find the formula for the perfect team, and their data-driven conclusion was just undeniable. Psychological safety was the #1 predictor of team success. It was more important than how smart people were, their experience, anything.
So here's where it all comes together. Psychological safety is the master key. It's the one thing that unlocks both of those playbooks we just talked about. It directly solves Lencioni's foundational problem, that absence of trust. And it's the critical ingredient that lets a team navigate Tuckman's storming stage productively, turning that inevitable conflict into innovation instead of just destruction.
So let's see how this actually plays out in the real world. We're going to look at how two massive tech giants, Shopify and Google, put these principles into action. And you'll see they take two very different but equally successful paths to building these incredible teams.
This is fascinating stuff. So Shopify, they take a very top-down, culture-first approach. They drill this team-over-individual ethos into everyone to directly fight those dysfunctions Lencioni talks about. They use that strong culture to basically fast-track their teams right through the messy storming stage. Google, on the other hand, is all about being bottom-up and data-driven. They focus on engineering the environment itself, systematically building psychological safety from the ground up so that trust can just emerge naturally.
So what you have here is a really clear strategic trade-off. Shopify's way is super fast and incredibly powerful, as long as that top-down culture stays strong. Google's approach? It's probably more scalable and easier to replicate across a gigantic company because it's a system, not just a belief system. Both are valid, both work, but they are two very different bets on how to build greatness.
Okay, so what does all of this mean for you? Let's boil everything we've covered down into a simple, actionable blueprint that you can use starting tomorrow to build or lead your own great teams.
Here are the three big takeaways. Number one, team success is engineered. You don't just get lucky. You have to build it intentionally. Number two, psychological safety is the absolute, non-negotiable bedrock. Everything else is built on top of that. And number three, conflict is a feature, not a bug. Healthy conflict, that is. A team that avoids all disagreement isn't a good team, it's a stagnant one. Now, let's look ahead for a second. There's this really compelling idea that as generative AI starts to automate more and more routine tasks, writing drafts, summarizing meetings, it's actually going to make the uniquely human parts of teamwork more valuable than ever before. Skills like building deep trust, navigating tricky ethical problems, and coming up with truly creative ideas. Those will become the real game changers. And that leads us to this final, really provocative thought. In a world where humans and AI are partners, the leader's most important job is going to fundamentally shift. It won't be about just managing tasks on a spreadsheet anymore. It will be about cultivating the human conditions for success. The leader's new title? Chief Trust Officer. So the question is, what will it take for you to become that kind of leader?